Okay then, so this is my game idea. It's very similar to Ben's, I would say as well. So a lot of the ideas that you came up with really could play into this game as well. I really liked a lot of your ideas, so we'll just need to have a conversation about that. But the game idea that I've got,
copy and paste, yeah.
So the game idea that I've got is called Deadmare. So it's a 3D stylized shoot 'em up game. So you'll have a cartoon shader. So a lot of the assets, the playable character will have like a thick black border around them. If you played Borderlands, you know the kind of art style that I'm going for. So it's sort of like got that realistic look, but it's very stylized as well in its own way. It's very distinguishable from other games as well. But the summary of the game is that there's a virus that's spreading through the world, and it's making people lose their senses, so their eyesight, their hearing, and it's making them go into like a very aggressive state. While the government's trying to find ways to combat this illness, everyone's been ordered to basically stay in their homes and defend themselves as best as possible. So this is making barriers, getting weapons, doing all that kind of stuff, just to try and combat the undead. I'm basically planning on having 3 levels, which will be a neighbourhood, a factory, and a military base. These environments will be level designed and created by myself. And the enemies will have an increased HP as time goes on or as rounds go on, whereas your health will stay the same. So this will make the challenge much greater the more you play, pretty much. The core loop of the game as well is basically either clear debris or build barriers, kill the undead, and basically survive. So that's just the loop of the game constantly. The mindset is to make the player feel constantly under pressure and the sensation of worry, because that 1 minute you can be trying to open up an area and then the next minute that's it, you're over. And then it's just trying to make the player actually struggle. So I know Call of Duty is like one of the main franchises which kind of do this, but here I want to try and do it so then it's an actual struggle. It's really hard to complete. Like if you look at games such as Dark Souls, that's very hard. You need a good skill level to actually complete the tasks that are ahead of you, pretty much.
So there's not going to be like a difficulty thing?
Not the difficulty will progress. So as more time you play, it will get increasingly harder to the point where it's like, pretty much impossible. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just the constant having the player under pressure and constantly in that state of mind where they don't know what's going to happen next. The target platform for this is PC. GOG is a really good place to actually put your game at as well, because it has DRM-free games. Also, Steam is another viable option as well, because you have the early access features, so you can get free QA testers pretty much. And because due to the gore elements of the game and the violence which is involved, it will have to be a 18 plus.
It's gonna have to be.
Yeah,
obviously.
Just because it's going to be a very very gritty kind of gory game. The players.
It's gonna be gory.
Yeah.
Oh my.
The player's motivation will trying to complete the levels to progress the storyline. So there will be a basic lore, and this can be basically the way this is going to be used is that you can view little pieces of paper, you can see posts or something, just to kind of give the player a hint. But also we can use such things as Reddit, other forums like Discord, where players can kind of create their own storyline, and everything just gets built up into this massive lore. And the replayability element of this would just be trying to last the longest in each kind of setting. So one of your friends might last an hour in the game, someone might last 10 minutes. It's a constant battle of I'm doing better than you, and it's just building off that. Let me just scroll down. The mechanics of this is going to be very simple as well. So you'll have a basic move mechanic. There'll be a jump mechanic which will be used to gain access to higher advantages, which adds verticality to the game as well. So one of the ideas I've got in my mind is that in the neighbourhood, there's going to be like a broken wall in like the second floor, and you have to try and find a way to get up there. And there'll be a certain objective there or a certain thing which can get to kind of help you progress longer. There'll be a crouch as well, like which is basically opposite adding verticality. So like you can basically crawl under stuff, crouch under things to get to places underneath as well. There'll be a movement meter as well, such as sprint, breaking down barriers, just to kind of like again add that fear, add that like kind of pressure onto people, because you know, say you got a stamina of 100 and a barrier takes 50 of that, and you've got to sprint to an area, so like, you want to try and like keep your stamina as much as possible, pretty much. The same with the health meter as well. So this will just show you how much health you have, and that's it. The unique mechanics as well is teleportation. So this will be allow you to get to an area which you wouldn't normally be able to get to. So it'll be like a little secret area where you can go, and that will have items which will help you pretty much get better items or upgrade your items. Also barrier repairs as well. So obviously you're going to be able to have the way of building barriers and destroying them, but obviously the enemies can destroy the barriers as well. So if you take your stamina and you say, well, I'm going to use this much to basically build the barriers even more, then you can use that. And just the upgrade system as well, so your weapons, your health, you can get armour and things like that to try and help you, but that will be like something we can look at further on down the line. The level design and art style, like I said, it's going to be a cartoon cel-shaded game. So, you know, it's going to take inspiration from Borderlands. I also looked at We Happy Few as well. That art style is absolutely incredible. You know, like that's one of the really big inspirations as well. As for the characters, there's going to be just a few. So you're going to have the main player that you play as, in like a third person kind of viewport, and then you're going to have a merchant. So this guy is going to be, so if you look at something like Resident Evil 4 where you have the tradesman where basically you can buy things off him, that's going to be the merchant. Now you're never going to actually be able to see this merchant. He's going to be kind of like hidden behind a window or something, and then you're not actually going to know if he's going to give you a good item or a bad item, but you do need to complete tasks for him in order to get like these kind of things off him. So one thing you could be like, you have to hold off in a certain area for a certain amount of time, but you don't know the actual reward you're going to get. It could be a good or bad thing, so it's like rolling the dice basically. And then there's going to be a radio reporter. So this guy is basically going to tell you about, I don't know, any updates. It's just going to be basic background music as well and sounds. As for like things like weapons and things, you're going to start off with a water pistol, and I sense that. But this is basically going to do no damage at all. All this is going to do is basically shoot at the enemies to just back them off. Okay.
More useless.
Yeah. So this is where the first few rounds is still going to be very tough for the players. So they're only going to be able to push the enemies back. So they need to quickly get a weapon to defend themselves. And then you can have pickups such as health and ammo, but these will be very limited in supply. The game flow as well is that you need to do certain things or get to a certain point in order to progress onto the storyline. This will mean that, say for the neighbourhood one, you need to do a certain thing for you to be able to unlock the factory level. For the gaming market as well, like the reason why I'm going for PC is just that it's one of the biggest platforms as well. So many people having PCs now, especially due to the pandemic. People have invested that money into gaming, with the actual gaming being a total of 79.3 billion in net worth.
Damn.
And then like the trends of gaming as well. So like zombie shooters kind of took a bit of a decline in popularity because it was getting very oversaturated. And then games such as Call of Duty have come out with their zombie modes, and they're not living up to the expectations, so they're not getting the player base. So those players who used to play a Call of Duty game just for the zombies, they're moving on to other things now, and they want the next best thing because Call of Duty Zombies isn't what it used to be, and people are very upset about that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Like it's a passion project of mine as well. So I would really like to do it, but obviously it's up to everybody else if they feel comfortable doing it as well.
On the questions, yeah.
Yeah. So you've got any questions?
Does the ghost face ask the questions first?
I've got some ghost questions.
Yeah. Let's go.
We love ghost questions.
Let's go.
So, like, with the stylized, like, Borderlands style that you mentioned, you want that cell shading stuff, why have you kind of focused on that style rather than the more realistic style?
Because with the realistic style, it's just going to be another Call of Duty clone. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be very realistic, and that's not something that we want. What we want is that something that sort of people who have played Call of Duty Zombies, they can relate to this sort of game, and it's something very familiar to them. But then again, it's like a totally different experience to what they would expect. So the art style will allow us to exaggerate things such as mechanics, game flows, anything like that. Like, it just doesn't mean we have to stick to a certain path of making sure everything feels realistic and everything feels like, you know, as you would expect. But yeah, that's where it...
Like, opens your creativity.
Yeah, so there's a lot more creativity, and especially for someone who's like a level designer as well, it opens up so many different like avenues to kind of build levels.
You mentioned with, like, as the game progresses in time, it's going to have a modifier to change the health of the enemies. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of modifier is like fine, but is it challenging enough? Because you mentioned it being really challenging. Is it going to be a case of, what I'm trying to say is, like, will there be other modifiers as well, or is it just a case of increasing the health? Because I think that's a bit dull.
Yeah, so like you could increase the health, you could increase the speed, that kind of thing. One idea that would be nice to include is having like bosses. So every now and again, a big boss will come in just to break up the entire flow of the game, just so it's not the repetitive over and over again. And that'd be like another challenge which we can kind of upscale as time goes on as well.
Yeah, and I think with the boss as well, it adds that replayability, because if you had random bosses spawn, it might make the player go, oh, I'm trying to kill this one for an achievement. Or,
of course.
You know, it has that kind of stuff to it. Have you played Dead by Daylight?
I have not now, but... oh no, here we go.
Why would I that now?
Basically, Dead by Daylight's a survival game where you have a period of time where you can like set up a base, and then there's at certain points is you have the zombie waves attack. And during the attack, there's like different zombies depending on how much you progress through the game as well. But like there are a lot of similarities between what you're suggesting and Dead by Daylight. So if you haven't played it, I would firstly suggest you play it, just have a look. But one of the things that I haven't played it for probably 6 months, 8 months, so there might have been updates since, but one of the things that they struggle with on there is the pathing of the AI. So like you mentioned about having verticality to level. Like I can see that being like quite a big technical hurdle to overcome the pathing of the AI. So have you thought about how you're going to like implement that?
So looking from a level design standpoint, what it'd be is that we're going to have blocking volumes everywhere. So around where the enemies can actually walk, there'll be blocking volumes, and there'll be a nav mesh, which means that they can only go a certain path, and it will stop things like them getting trapped in walls or trapped in any meshes or anything. And it would just make it so it'd be a lot smoother for the AI as well. But that is something which we'd have to kind of build upon and play test and like kind of work on.
Yeah, and again from the level design perspective as well, like with Destiny, there's like choke points for enemies, so there's been instances where people have been just like camped in one spot, 5 people stacked up just gunning one corridor where they know all the enemies are going to convert at that point. So from a level design perspective, this isn't a question, this is more like a statement, it's just make sure that there's enough variation there in the level design, so there's no like choke points for them to just camp, someone to play and just camp, because that nullifies the game, you know.
Like especially if it's in like a house or something, then you could have like the stairway and like a broken wall where the both can come in, and then
so again it's just thinking about the design of the level and thinking about how you can get around that, but it makes sense for the player to to have that experience and have that awareness of
Yeah.
a different thing.
Yeah.
The ghost questions?
So that's my ghost question.
So Dead by Daylight AI.
Yeah. Well, I made a base at one point.
Made a base in Dead by Daylight. Am I thinking of the wrong game?
Yeah.
Do you mean 7 Days by Dev?
Yeah. I think I was thinking 7 Days to Die. I think I was thinking of. There you go. I was going to say Dead by Daylight. Someone who plays a killer. Like, AI, build a base.
7 days.
What have I been missing?
Yeah. So you build a base. Same, I think. But you build a base, and like we basically made one ladder because we knew the AI was trash. And me and my friend who was playing it just made it so that I went into this pit, I fell on spikes, and then they all died, and that was it.
Jesus.
Again, kind of overcome that by putting flying enemies in, but then you could have an auto turret on the top of you. So again, it just kind of making the game, like cheesing the game basically. The AI pathing's donkey. So just something to think about.
Yeah, well,
But again, play by day by day, because that's what games are.
7 Days to Die.
7 days to Die is what I'm talking about.
I'll give it a go, yeah.
You probably like that.
Yeah, well, I like the sound of it already.
It's a co-op survival game, so it's kind of like...
you like it?
Yeah, it's kind of like a base builder, survival, zombies coming waves.
Okay.
Love that.
Yeah.
It's still early dev days. It's not like super polished.
Enjoy it, yeah. Get another tattoo of this game.
Well then, any questions?
Less of a question. So you're trying to separate it from Call of Duty, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to make it
not Call of Duty.
It's like what people who play the game expect, but more like what we want to do as well. So it's going to be like a mixture of the both. So it's going to be more of this, like less of the same kind. I don't know. Like,
So like
you know what I mean?
So like the wackiness of Borderlands, but with the foundations
So
of
it's
COD.
like,
Zombies.
because obviously Call of Duty Zombies is taking a massive dive at the moment.
Yeah.
We want to kind of like
Fill in
give the
that
players something, an experience which is actually good. Yeah, you know what I mean?
The only problem I have with that is people will be, because that puts you in direct competition with Call of Duty Zombies.
It's a much bigger team.
Which is a bigger team.
Yeah.
It has hundreds of guns, hundreds of blah, blah, all these different things.
Yeah.
So, have you not thought of any way to sort of separate yourself from that game even more? Like, instead of going for a wave-based thing, could be more linear or something like that?
Yeah, you could go more linear, like especially with the point-to-point like objectives. So like once you get to a certain point, like that's it, and then you can go on to the next map. Like that's definitely something we can look into.
So with each new section, are you always going to have that water pistol at the start?
Yeah, most likely, because it offers that like that pressure at the start, like you know, knowing that you can't instantly kill a zombie, so you need to kind of like move around and
Sorry, he's just laughing.
So like cats, you see, where they come at you, they're like, ah, they back up.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions?
From a technical standpoint, how would you want the AI to be handled? So like their behaviours and how they would react to you coming into areas, as well as like them spawning into the map. Like how would they, say if they're from the outside of the map, how would they...
So the way it's going to work is that the way the level is set up at the moment, because I've been basically doing a little bit of prototype just to kind of get my own idea of what it's going to look like. So you're going to be in the middle and you're basically going to be able to run there. Outside there's going to be fences where the like mercs or zombies can jump over and go and get at you, but they're going to have like the group mentality. So the way the AI will work is that one of them will lead the pack, and then like that means that it's basically like an ant farm, so at least one of them will get through as well, because I know there's going to be issues with like spawning whatever, and it also means that adds that kind of pressure as well, where it's like, you know, there's a group of zombies literally rushing towards you.
Isn't that what World War C does?
Similar, but they like have a swarm system. But like theirs is like a little iffy. Like,
it's gonna be way better than this.
Like, I don't want it to be like if you kill the main one, the rest of them are gonna die with them. It's gonna be like they're all gonna have their individual health, but at least one of them's gonna like guide them through. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, got it.
Yeah, and then you can do it like if that main one gets killed, the role gets passed on to another. Do you know what I mean? Constantly.
Cole, do you think you could do that?
Yeah. He's a good coder, so
He knows what he's doing.
But yeah. Any more questions?
I want. In terms of like weapons you're going to be using.
What is this? Sorry, what is this?
I'm sorry. No.
Why are you sitting like that?
I get nervous. Leave
Ask
me
your
alone.
question.
In terms of like weapons and such, but
Yeah.
what kind of weapons are they going to be? Because you mentioned like a water gun at first.
Yeah, so that's going to be the thing which just pushes them back.
Yeah.
So you need to try and get like assault rifles, like melee weapons, anything like that. Like because it's built into like American kind of like neighborhood. Like you're not going to instantly have like I don't know, like high powerful like assault rifles, whatever. It's going to be very like limited until you get to the factory and then the military base where you can like get better hardware.
So your gear's going to increase with what?
Yeah.
Okay, but that's not cool.
But with that, it's like obviously the enemies are going to get much harder as well.
How will the ammo factor in?
So it's going to be very limited.
Yeah.
So obviously we don't see you go in, you can just start spraying everyone down. You need to be very precise with how you shooting the enemies. So like I don't know, maybe run them round and then get them all into a line and then to conserve your ammo.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is going to be a very limited system and very limited pickups as well.
I think a good suggestion that would probably be worth looking at is making different types of ammo types. So you'd have like one AP round for like boss specific or different types of like zombies, and a round that is for like...
That's something we can look at like once we get the base game set up.
Yeah, it's because like if ammo is just like one type, why add a machine gun or a shotgun? Like,
of course,
that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, that's something we can look at a lot later on down the line. Any more?
So, like, with it being a sort of a like a zombie-esque round-based game, right?
Yeah.
And then on COD, like when you start the first round and whatnot, you can just stab the zombies and straight away kill them. What would be different in this game? Like,
so you can't do that.
Can't melee.
Like you
can't kill them.
Like when you first start, like you cannot kill them. Like the only thing you got is a warp pistol to kind of like push them back until you can find something. So that's like one of the big differences, and it may be a little bit controversial to people who know Call of Duty for knowing that you can kill them straight away. But I feel like that'd be a really good starting point, especially for the mindset that we're going for the game.
So is there going to be like idle zombie people walking around at the start?
So like there will be idle zombies, and then like obviously if one of them senses you, then they can call more to come over. Do you know what I mean?
Cool. What perspective are you doing this in?
It'll be third person.
Okay. And when you say they'll sense you, what is the thing they're going to sense? Are they going to smell you? Are they going to hear you? Are they going to feel flesh on you?
It's probably going to be like hearing, because they are like losing their senses. So it's something we need to look at a bit closer, just like how they are, because I'm guessing it's going to be hearing, because obviously if you're shooting, your footsteps, that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like they're going to be able to hear that. But yeah, it's something we need to just look at.
Well, it's a bit more sight, because then if he codes it, he can just have a code.
Oh no, but that's how it'd be coded. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I gotta go law-wise.
Yeah, law-wise, yeah. Like, for the code, you just have like a pawn sensing thing, don't you? Like yeah. But yeah, any more questions?
Don't think so.
Anything from the coder?
No.
I was very confident.
Yeah.
Are there going to be any buffs or debuffs?
Yeah, so again, that's something that we're going to look at later on, but I am planning on having like kind of abilities, so like, I don't know, you can buy something to get something in return, but that's something like way later on down the line.
Cool.